First things first, what I need you to do, I need you to get out your Renaissance notes. We're going to be taking some Shakespeare notes here. We're going to continue with where we left off. Somebody will have to remind me where we were. Because once again, let's look up here. What do we have as one of our #1 goals that we're going to accomplish here today with these notes?
Students will learn about Shakespeare's life and the times in which he wrote.
Why is that so important for us to understand the time of Shakespeare? Let's think back to where we've done it before.
So we can understand the language.
Okay, #1, to understand the language. Where's the second thing where it would be very, very important for us to know a little bit about Shakespeare? Allison?
For connections in the story.
Very good, for connections in the story. So to understand the language, to understand connections. Anybody know specifically what types of connections? Specifically, what types of connections?
The
Taylor?
author's life to his writings.
Okay, how the author is going to transfer his life into the writing. Does that make sense? Are our notes ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, here come the notes. Popping those up.
We were at the parents.
We were at the parents. Good eye.
Wait, what? I gave you the wrong place.
All right, we were at. Yeah, Sean. Are you ready for it? Just give me a second. Let's get a couple of these down and we'll go. When City gets back to you. When going through all of these stories, is it clear to see that there's still money to be made off of Shakespeare?
Yes.
There's still popularity, that there's still interest there?
Yes.
Did we get that moment across? We're right here, correct?
Yes.
Shakespeare's life, the early years. This is going to talk a little bit about his life in the early, what the times were like. I know that in social studies class, you guys have talked about the Renaissance. I know that that information is in your head, so I'm not going to deal too much with it. But the early years. First of all, we think that he was born on April 23rd, 1564, in the city of Stratford-upon-Avon. Why do you think we don't know the exact date of his birth? Does anybody have any ideas, Marina?
Because they weren't very good at keeping records.
They were good at keeping records, but for Shakespeare, you are 100% correct. Why would they not be accurate with keeping records for Shakespeare, yet they had the ability to keep records? Because we have records on other people.
Maybe the records were lost that many years? Or they're
Records were
hard
not
to.
lost because by the end of his life, he was famous. They would have backtracked and found it.
Maybe he kept them. Maybe he was like too poor to be worth keeping records.
Excellent job. Did you guys hear that one?
No.
A little louder than Catherine.
He was too poor to be worth keeping records for.
He was too poor to be worth keeping records for. You guys hear that one? Write it down. That's a good one. One of the reasons why we don't have some of his early information is because he didn't matter then. And when you look at the times of the Renaissance, one of the things that mattered was your birthright. Was he born into nobility? Was he born into money? No. So guess what they would not have? So at the end, they were like, oh my goodness, we better figure this out. So they backtracked, and guess what they're able to find out? The approximate. Very good. They were able to find the approximate. And where did the approximate lead them to?
April 23rd.
The spring. And so then they assigned April 23rd to be his birth date. And he was born in Stratford-upon-Avon. What is Stratford?
A city.
What is Avon?
A river.
Excellent. You guys remember that one. Here's where we left off. Parents, John Shakespeare and Mary of Arden. John Shakespeare and Mary of Arden were his parents, and his father was a glove maker. He also,
Thought you just said that.
A love
well, he had 8 children.
Oh,
So-
God. Well, he
Who am I to criticize? He was a glove maker, and he also held the title of mayor of the town for a while.
Then how would Shakespeare be poor?
He was a regular, what would be part of the guild. He was a guildsman. He basically was sub-middle class by today's standards. He had a job, he had recognition, but it would be somewhere around, middle class to sub-middle class. And are people really concerned, is the media barging in to see what's going on with my life? Are people like, oh my goodness, there he goes, let's all take pictures of him? Nobody's doing that. How would Holden Caulfield define that?
Hot shot. Oh, hot shot. Wait.
He's a hot shot?
Oh.
I'll give you a hint, he died a hot shot.
He's a phony.
How was he early on?
But nobody.
A what? A nobody. So, that's where we were here. And once again, like I said, he had 8 children. William was the third. William was the third eldest child. Yes, Marie? No, wait. It's not there. Here's one of the key things I want you to put a star next to. This is something that we're going to challenge throughout the play. Yes, dear?
How did they know he was the third child if they didn't have?
Because he was important by the time, and he was still alive, so they could easily ask him.
Oh.
I was the third child. Because he would not have been told that exact date. The exact moment's not there. But you live your life with your siblings, so you know how many of them there were. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, they had to celebrate his birthday.
They had to?
No.
With what? They didn't have anything to wrap up?
Maybe they were Jewish. No, that's not Jewish people celebrate their birthday.
Let's get back to the star. I told you the star seed. Star seed, because here's one of our big hurdles. Here's one of our big challenges. At the age of 13, his family lost whatever money they had. They were not allowed to keep him in school. What did you guys learn anything in your social studies class about the Renaissance where you could have talked about people that went to school during this time period?
The Renaissance was first.
What did they have if you went to school? If you were educated in this time period, what must you have had?
Money.
Money. So his parents did have some. So when Shelby raises her hand and says, hey, well, what about this? I thought they did have some. Enough to educate their children. However, when they lost that, by age 13, were they able to continue with his education?
No.
They were not able to continue with his education. So that's why this is very important. One of the greatest writers that we've ever had, with the vocabulary that he had, when did his formal schooling stop?
Oh, is that why you think
Age
that?
13. This is one of the things that we're going to be focused on now. Could they independently learn on their own?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But at age 13, he was pulled from school. So he had to find other ways to generate an education.
Maybe he secretly went to school.
Maybe he secretly went to school, potentially. However, schools weren't set up then like you guys are used to here in America, where we have a free and appropriate public education for all students. It's not like that in a lot of places throughout the world. And in Shakespeare's time, you weren't entitled to an education. Nowadays, you guys are, and a lot of you guys know friends or current students that absolutely despise coming to school, and that their free right that they have. They didn't have it. Here is his home. If you were to travel to Stratford today, this would be a picture of his home. It's a museum right now, because once again, how did he die? A hot shot. So guess what they made into a museum? His home. Now I told you that they were middle class. If we look at it, do you see the structure of the house? Here's where we're looking. That probably would have been the house that he grew up in. That would be the house in which he grew up. Much smaller, right? 2 parents, 8 children. Do you understand the middle class value that they probably lived in?
Yeah.
A lot of people say, that house is huge. How are you saying that they were? They had a house, so we know that they're middle class. Dad had a job, his dad also had some prominence. However, this is probably what it was. And when Shakespeare returned to Stratford after his illustrious career as a dramatist, he probably added on. I would love to go there and visit it someday. One of my good friends has been there, said it's a thrill. So I would like to get there. So if one of you guys could please convince my wife to fly over the water, I'll be a happy man. She doesn't like to be on a boat either. So I know somebody's already suggested have her drive. Doesn't work.
Give her a sleep.